Welcome to the new project, the Yamaha YZ450F. Martin Luther King had a dream. It was much, much better than my dream, but it didn't involve motorbikes. My one does. I've always dreamt of having one bike that does all the things I like. Lots of bikes is nice, but just having one bike that I could do supermoto, road racing, flat track racing, enduro, all the kind of corners of motorcycling and racing that appeal to me in one package. No one makes one of those, but there is something that comes close. The Yamaha YZ450. Obviously it's a good off-road bike. We know they turn them into supermotos. That is what a supermoto is, a motocross bike with road wheels. Again, popular flat track conversion, short suspension, different wheels. And actually recently people have started turning 450 four-stroke motocross bikes into road race bikes. That's our plan, and the challenge is to win a race in each format in the next year. There's going to be a lot of blood, a lot of sweat, and probably plenty of tears, but we'll see how we get on.
Come on, Chris, I ain't gonna wheel it. I bet you can crash it too.
The first stop off in our wild mystery tour of motorcycle racing and modifying and my dream world is enduro. You'd think that there's not too much to change. The YZ450 is a motocross bike. There's a few things you do need to modify for enduro. Softer suspension, things like handguards to stop your trees hitting the brake levers and clutch levers, and a few other tricks along the way. Kind of our main partner in the whole of this project is going to be Dr. Shocks. Chris Hockey from Dr. Shocks Suspension is a bit of a wizard with all things that go up and down and are filled with oil. Most things that go up and down are filled with oil. And his job really is to get the suspension dialed in for each of the terrains we're going to attack. And that ranges massively from nonsense like tractor tyres buried in the sandy hill through to Paddock Hill Bend at Brands Hatch. You know, there's a huge range that we're expecting this bike to cope with. Now let's go and catch up with Chris Hockey and get him to talk us through the changes needed to make the YZ450 into a viable enduro race bike. So, Kiwi, Dr. Shocks, the man himself, you've got a pretty big part in this challenge, making this thing work in all the different situations we're going to find ourselves in.
What have I got myself into?
I asked you a favour. You should know never to accept favours from mates. What changes are we going to make to this motocross bike to get it into an enduro bike?
Okay, well, suspension wise, the beauty of these modern motocross bikes, the suspension's so versatile. You know, internally they can be reshimmed on the rebound side, on the compression side, springs, oil heights. So basically you can make these forks and shock good for trials, supermoto, motocross, enduro, rally, anything you want really. And it's all done by the adjustments inside the shim stacks and the springs and the oil heights. You know, the actual outer, you know, mechanical feature of the fork is the same on pretty much all bikes. It's a fantastic bike to start with really because of that fact.
And just in general, don't bore me with talk of oil and
rubbish like that.
In general, what way are we going to go to make it from motocross to suitable for enduro?
Yeah. Well, basically we're going to make it softer. We're going to make it softer on all parts: springs, rebound, compression. The thing with enduro is you hit things a lot slower generally because you're on a narrower trail, so there's a certain element of trials in it with rocks and roots and objects like tyres and things that you're going to hit. So the suspension needs to work faster really, so it needs to be softer. If it was full-on motocross style, you'd probably bounce off things, you know, you'd get loads of blisters, and it just wouldn't be a very comfortable ride. So bear in mind that was a 30-second part of the sort of 5-minute loop for most people. I think I lapped you 6 times. If we had a tarmac 30-second loop, how many times do you reckon you'd lap me?
You wouldn't have seen which way I went. It was 3 times anyway, not 6. Not that I was counting.
No, but to be fair, that is as rough as it gets. I mean, if we have a British Championship at Thetford, for example, the last lap is like that. It's incredibly good fitness training for boys. There's such a flat land around here, we haven't got mountains and streams, So when it gets bumpy and rooted and rutted like that, that's the kind of technical element of this type of terrain really. More physical than technical, I'd say, wouldn't you?
Physical, yeah, I can say it's at the moment I'm not looking at the bike thinking, right, we need to change this. I'm looking at me and going, I need to get my ass down the gym.
But to be fair, this is exactly why I say it's so important to warm up first, because the thing that's holding you back is you, it's your arms and your lungs, and you can't concentrate, and you can't then, you haven't got the strength to pick the front wheel up over the bumps or attack the corners. But I guarantee once you've had you have a drink now, a little rest, another session, and even though the track is probably in a slightly worse state, you'll be more comfortable and you'll be better because you'll be able to attack it more.
Hope he's right. So apart from me falling flat on my face a couple of times, just coming off my first session, yeah, obviously there's lots of work for me to do, but the bike feels quite stiff as well. It doesn't feel like it's giving me a lot of feedback, and I feel like I'm a bit of a passenger. And again, that comes to the tiredness, but you reckon you can fix that a bit, Chris?
But what we'll do is we'll put your clickers on the softest possible setting. It's not advisable to do that on the shock, but we'll go a lot softer on the back, and we'll go full soft on the compression on the forks. Come off a couple of clicks on the rebound because we don't want it to come back too fast. We want it to go down quickly, and yeah, we'll prove the point that basically it still wants to be softer. So it's only so soft you can get this bike without changing the internals.
So we've had a little ride round. Kiwi's been through the suspension, done the best he can with the external adjustments, you know, the stuff you can attack with your screwdrivers and your tape measure. The bike's feeling a lot better. It's now moving around a bit more. It's holding a line in the ruts a bit better, just from the little changes he's made from altering the attitude of the motorcycle and letting the suspension work more. It's one of those things, it's a bit like witchcraft, you know. I know what all the clickers do, but I don't know where to put them. But a guy like Chris, with the experience he's got, years and years and years of setting up these bikes, and he races himself, so he kind of knows exactly what needs to be done, can just literally turn the clickers, bike's done. Bike's a lot better than it was. We're still going to go further, I think, to get the bike spot on and give me the most chance of winning a race, which is going to be a tall ask. Kiwi's going to take the forks apart, and we're going to do the full internal modifications as he's done on his own bike. I've ridden a bike with that setup on, and it's something else, you know, it really is a big difference. But for now, we've got a big playground full of things to jump off, so let's go and see if we can crash some more. Finished! All done, all finished for the day. I've had my crashes, I've shed my tears for my poorly leg. Chris, got to say thanks, mate.
No worries, bud.
You're a star. Feels like it's a long way to go. Not so much from the bike. I mean, what's my next move? I feel like I'm a long way from a win.
Yeah, like I said, this is a very, very difficult type of terrain to learn, you know, especially coming from road, you know, with the sand, and especially with a big bike like that, a motocross bike as well. You can see when you ride round, the first couple of laps, you're fresh and you're doing everything right, but as soon as the fatigue starts to come in, you know, elbows come down and you start to make mistakes. So being stronger is definitely going to help, and taming this big beast as well is going to help as well. So you're right, there's a bit of work to be done. Yeah. Sweet.
Well, there we go. Bit of practice, and I'll get myself down the gym a couple of days a week, or all the days a week, probably every day. You know this is going to hurt 4 times as much when I see it. Need to not look.
Enduro
track. Oh, is it? Isn't it?
Yeah. So this is why they call me the doctor.
Yeah, the doctor shocks. You're not supposed to damage the patient first, though.
She's a beauty, mate. She's a beauty. Just hold that on there, please, sir. I don't know if I'm doing this right, but this is just to keep the shit out of it. Technical term, that.
Right, I need to hit the road. Get out of here. Get that sorted.